Hey Rob, okay, you've been doing your embarrassing moments videos, and I was thinking I would love to contribute to this, but I don't have really that many embarrassing moments, at least none that come to mind, but I do have some very, very awkward moments in my dating past. And so I've dated some very colorful people, I guess you could say. And there was this one guy that I had dated for about 5 years. And this one particular incident comes to mind. Some of my friends already know about this. And what had happened was we were over at his cousin's house watching, I think it was like Newlyweds Marathon that was on television. It was years ago. And suddenly we hear this screaming, just this, ah! Ah! And this man comes running through the room, grabs their uncle's most prized possession that he loves more than his children, the samurai sword that he had. And then he starts running back through, screaming like what turned out to be like ghost, ghost, get him in Vietnamese. And he starts hacking at this door, and like this sword is just going through this door, just smooth as silk. But eventually he like totally like bent up the sword. And so then suddenly he was like quiet, everything was fine. And so then I just was like, what's he doing here? And they're like, oh, he lives here. And so and I stopped to think for a moment, and all of the bedrooms belong to the parents and the kids, like his aunt, uncle, and his cousins. And so and I was just like, where does he live? They're like, oh, he lives over in the closet. And I'm like, he lives in the closet. And they're like, yeah, that one over there. And I'm just like, oh, I see. And I just go back watching television like nothing ever happened. No one says anything again after that. And so then, driving my friend home, and I'm just like, so, the guy, he lives in the closet. And he's just like, yep. I'm just like, okay. It's like, he's your cousin? He's like, no, he's no relation. I'm just like, is it a walk-in closet? And she's like, no, it's a regular closet. And then I'm just like, what, like a coat closet? And he's like, no, it's just a regular closet, big enough for a small man to lay down in. It's his room. He lives there. And I'm just like, it's not a room. It's a closet. And then he's just like, no, it's his room. He lives there. I'm just like, well, how'd you find this man if he's not related to you? And, Bastion, he's just like, oh, well, my uncle, he found him wandering around one day. Like, he was crazy. He didn't know where he was. So he took pity on him and he brought him home like a stray pet. I'm like, but he's not a pet. He's a man. He's a crazy man. It's like, how long has he been living with your uncle? He's just like, oh, no, like 13 years. I'm like, 13 years? And then I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, but they have moved multiple times. That's 13 years. He just goes from closet to closet. And then that's when he just said, it's like, no, you're making a mockery of it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm just like, okay. Then, like, a couple of hours had passed. And he's like, is it really that strange for a man to live in the closet? And I just say, yes. Yes, it is actually that strange for a man to be living in your closet. And so, we keep going on this, silence, and then, is it really that strange? Yes, it is that strange. And so, we didn't talk about it again for a long, long while, like several months. So, we're back over at the cousin's house, and like by then, it's, common knowledge that I know that, yeah, that's his name, means fork, that he's living in the closet. So, he comes out, and he takes a liking to me. He starts making all of these rice balls for me. And it's like, he'll give them to me. And I'll just be like, oh, no thanks. And he's like, no, take it. So I just say, oh, thank you. And he's, nodding yes. And then everyone else is looking at me just saying, And then I would just say, okay, like, thank you. And then he just goes, walks back into his room, and then his cousins take it and they throw it outside, like he did something to it. I have no idea what he could have done, but they just say to me, don't ever eat anything from him. Like, okay, all right, I won't. So, more time passes by, and he comes out more and more frequently now. And he starts to show me these pictures. And the series of pictures, he's wearing this baby blue leisure suit, and he's posing underneath this tree and next to this tree. And I'm just wondering, first off, where does anyone even find a suit like this anymore? We're talking like circa 1972. And then, who's taking these pictures of this man? Because he doesn't have any more friends. I know none of them are taking the pictures. So I have no idea where these pictures come from of him posing in this suit. And so he's always just like, so, how is it? I'm like, yeah, it's great. It's awesome. And then he just goes, yeah. And he goes back into his room. And so this goes on for a little while, weeks. And so one day he's not there. It turns out he decided to walk to Dallas from Houston. So he was gone for like 3 months. He was walking to Dallas, several hundred miles, walking to Dallas. And so they're like, yeah, do you want to look at his room? I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure, I want to look in there. So we open up the door, and we look inside, and he has this little nest that he's built inside of it's really a pantry. He has this little nest that he's built inside of the pantry. So it's this little bed, this nest where he's been sleeping. The suit was hanging up in there. He's got some books and some snacks. This man was living inside of this pantry for, at that point in time, for 15 years, because 2 years had passed in like the original date. And so he had been living in, not this pantry, but various closets and pantries for 15 years. And so I just accepted it. And none of them ever thought it was odd, because it's all that they ever knew, to have this man living in their closet. So that is one of my awkward dating moments, and I have many, but that's one of the most vivid ones that comes to mind. So I hope you enjoyed that. That who knows how many other men are living in pantries and closets across the country. So I hope you enjoyed that little story. And they never fixed the samurai sword again. I don't think they could. Unfortunate. But that is the Closet Samurai Man.